There hasn't been a lot of innovation in the operating model. Well, we want to innovate on the product, right? We want to create new solutions for clients, but nobody innovates on the company. Greatest works in history, how were they produced? And it wasn't by working 18-hour days, and it wasn't by grow. It was by taking intentional time to do something worth doing.
What do you think the biggest mistake that other tech partners are making?
It's the overhead. Why do people hate paying consultants? They don't get anything done. Well, there is no overhead. Let's just go and do the work. Listen to a lot of people talk about AI. It's like, how do we get rid of people? And most companies are trying to optimize bottom line. So we're just in it for a different reason. We're not in it for profits at all costs. No, we're in it for the people, actually.
Have you written any of this down in a book?
New year, new podcast season, and new amazing guests on our show. If you're new, welcome. This podcast is all about sharing the stories and the people in the region of Northeast Indiana. We currently have 2 seasons of episodes in our backlog that you can check out, but we also release new episodes every other Wednesday. Make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss out on the amazing people and stories that we're going to share on this podcast. Today, we are joined by Matt and Caleb from BT Pro Solutions. BT Pro Solutions is a tech company that specializes in consulting and product development. This is an up-and-coming company that was co-founded by both Matt and Caleb from decades of experience and a passion for creating a better experience for tech consulting. Although they both have a lot to share about the tech industry, what becomes the main topic of this conversation might surprise you. So stay tuned to learn what BT Pro Solutions does differently than other tech companies, what their perspective is on the hot-button topic of AI integration, and what unique perspectives that they bring to their company on work-life balance and employee satisfaction. Take it away, Jonathan.
Matt and Caleb, you guys, I'm so excited to have you guys here because not just are you from BT Pro Solutions, I know half of your client base. So, and I also know where you guys came from, which I'm going to get into. Yeah. I think I want to get into that first. Would you guys mind just giving me a quick overview of BT Pro?
Yeah, for sure. So BT Pro Solutions, you can really think about it in 2 parts. It's tech consulting and then product development. And on the tech consulting side, it's really e-commerce, data, and sort of custom software. Everything from websites to, we like to talk about as like the software that runs your business, right? It could be from like ERP to manufacturing, anything that you use in your business. So that's one side. The other side is product development, right? And so think of that as that SaaS products, if you will, but really any sort of product that solves a specific need that you might pay a subscription for.
What's the breakdown approximately in your business as far as percentages?
I think it's primarily consulting. I'd probably put it at a 75-25 split, right?
Okay.
And so that's how we started, right? We had a solid client base and then are growing that product side.
Yeah, that was the goal when we started the company, was to take the path toward more product development.
How much of it is custom code nowadays versus open source? What's the breakdown for you guys?
Well, we never like to reinvent the wheel, so using open source as much as possible, really knowing how to integrate it into solutions. But there still is tons of custom work, and that's why a business would want a custom solution, because they do something unique, and they need something that's not just already created off the shelf. Right. So that's where we come in.
Yeah, you know, I think it's interesting because, as you guys know, I come from ad agencies, right? And I've been here almost 4 years, by the way. But I think I've seen a big change in the way people source their code. You know, we talked about overseas things. We talked about even if people don't seem to understand that even if it is open source, there's still custom code that needs to happen.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not just plug and play, right?
No, for sure. And like when we're looking at an e-commerce solution, we do use an open source e-commerce platform, but then we're building on top of it, whether it be integrations with different payment providers, customizations specific to that company. And so, but there's an advantage to that, right? To starting from a solid base and building on top. But there certainly are a number of use cases, I think, that demand a complete custom solution. But yeah, if we can build on top of a trusted open source platform or framework, we'll definitely do that.
Yeah, and I want to take us back in time just a little bit here, because you two came from Sweetwater.
Yeah.
And did you hire him, or how did this?
No, other way.
He hired me. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was there between 2014 and 2019, and hired Matt.
What was the department? What did you guys do?
Marketing. The web infrastructure and the website was all a part of marketing, at least at that time.
Yeah, and that's where I
changed.
joined.
Yeah.
It's much different now. I think there were 11 people on the web team when I joined.
Oh my God.
So I started and was primarily on the web side of things, on the e-commerce side of things. But the last couple of years, I moved kind of over into overseeing almost all the software engineering, including sales and some distribution, mobile apps, all that sort of stuff, like the internal applications and the external.
Tell me, how did your collective experience at Sweetwater, how did that form what you wanted to do for BT? I would assume it had some influence. Whether they were doing things wrong or right, you still take it with you, I would assume.
Yeah, for sure. And I would say even more broadly, we've talked before, just the experience we got in the first part of our career really set us up for success for what we're doing with BT. And for me, it started in consulting before Sweetwater even, and then, sort of led into that path to executive leadership, which just taught me a whole ton of things, right? From financials and team management and hiring and culture and also engineering at scale. I think that's something that, as I reflect on the first part of my career, that those experiences and learning how to engineer at scale really gave us some of the tools that we brought to BT.
Yeah, and I think back when I started at Sweetwater, like Matt said, it was a much smaller team. Back in 2014, I was one of like 5 developers on the website. And so you think about a large
How is
website.
that even possible?
I don't know.
How could you have 5 people?
Compared to what it is now, it's such a
Doesn't
difference.
seem possible.
Yeah, I mean, I would think, what could you do? 5 people can clean up code for 10 years. I mean,
Yeah, but being a part of such a small team, you really get your hands into everything there, and so that really helped. Whereas any organization now, whether it's Sweetwater or another large company, you're more siloed into your specialty, I think. And so some people miss out on just being the jack of all trades. You have to, be in a part of every system when you're just one of 5.
that's incredible. I think I told you guys when we had lunch a couple months ago, my brother's in InfoSec. So, where should InfoSec sit? Do you guys ever get called into these companies to try to help them restructure? Does that ever come about? Because here's why I asked that. My brother's in info security, right? So what happens is, well, that should sit under communications. Probably not. That should sit under IT. Okay, yeah, makes sense. They don't know what to do with that department.
Yeah.
And they keep moving it around, and that's making things worse.
IT is the business, right? A lot of times people think of IT, and the business in 2 separate conversations, but look at any company. What are you getting done without technology? Nothing. Everything in business revolves around technology, right? And so I think they are one and the same. And I was a big proponent of that. In all my previous roles, it's like we are the business together. Like there is no separation. Now, obviously, you have to have structures and org charts and where things fit. And a lot of times people focus it on like internal IT. So like, let's keep the lights on and security systems, and external, right? What is customer facing? So certainly one way to think about it. And it obviously depends on the company, the context. But in general, I think I'm in favor of the technical folks being together. I think if you have these sort of silos of technical teams, it just creates a little bit of a barrier where you can move a bit quicker, more smoothly if you're in the same org. So yes, we've done a little bit of that, really organizing dev teams. How do you get more value out the door, right? How do you organize work? And so I would recommend, in general, that teams are together, even if they have that split focus.
And I mean, we live more on the software and application side of things. And so when we think about InfoSec in relation to like other business systems, your emails, your computers, like we don't necessarily get into that. It's more of an MSP or IT company.
Yeah.
But I mean, we have taken over some applications that were developed by other companies, and in that process, you have to go through audit. Okay, like is this application secure? We've done some audits for people on their custom applications, so that kind of stuff is related to InfoSec in some way.
Yeah, because because I came up through digital, right? So at the agencies, it was, my first job, my first real bigger job was at a direct marketing firm, and we got to get into digital. So they didn't even, the guys interview. First of all, the president lost my resume, so we were off to a bad start. Yeah. Don't you ever air quote me on this show again. No, but it's so true because I go in there and he looked at me. I'll never forget. He looked at me like, because I'm like 20-0, and I walk in there. But back then nobody had experience in those sorts of things, and I think because of my great relationship with my brother, I was coming in differently. I was coming in with a sensitivity to the tech guys, okay? Because at an ad agency and you bring in tech guys, everybody cheered us when we walked in. This is going to be great. This is the future. And within a millisecond, we were the Antichrist because, you're not doing things the way we do it. Right. And I remember back then our bread and butter was with CD-ROMs. And here I was charging between 80 and 100 plus per CD-ROM, and we did them for big, like Capital One, Discover Card, those types of things. Yeah. And it taught me a lot because your foundation was the technology, and you're a victim of circumstance by how well that guy knows the tech. Yeah. And I think that these companies don't necessarily always realize that technology isn't just overhead and it isn't just infrastructure. Yeah. Do you guys come across that when people questioning billings or, well, how long does this take? It takes a certain amount of time to drive from here to Minneapolis. I can't change that. Yep. It takes a certain amount of time. I don't care if you're cutting and pasting code or not. Yep. Do you guys get you run into that?
Yeah. So do you treat IT like a cost center, right? It's a common sort of argument. And even I think the whole marketing angle too. Should you have programmers in marketing, not in marketing? How do you support those digital initiatives? Right? Yeah. That's always a tension I see in companies. It's just like, well, if you put a few programmers over here in technical foot, well, they're kind of separated from the herd. So is that good? But there's an efficiency there. So there's the whole like culture, efficiency merging thing. Yeah. But in general, I think IT technology is the business. I don't see it as separate in any sort of way. And so I think integrating it throughout the entire company, throughout all the processes, like that's what you have to do. And whether org charts, you have people over here, there, we can debate that forever. Yeah. But I think it's really that integration point. Like we making decisions with that technology foundation, right? Mm-hmm. Because if we're going to go do X campaign, X feature, X whatever, guess who's got to fulfill that request?
Right. Right. And it's so my solution back then being 20-0 was, okay, everybody reports into me. Sure. Okay, well, wait a minute. Do you guys even remember Flash?
What's Flash?
Okay,
yeah. What's a CD-ROM?
So it's a CD-ROM. No, but with Flash and Director and animated softwares like that, the argument back to me was, no, that's design. That's aesthetic design. That should report to the chief creative officer. Sure.
I had to interrupt the podcast to share the exciting news. We officially have our 2026 Pioneer nominees. Now, we will be announcing these soon, but in the meantime, my team and I are working behind the scenes to film and tell their pioneering stories. You might be wondering where you come in, and I'm glad that you want to know. We will be releasing the video series telling each pioneer story in the spring, along with opening up community voting to vote on each category winner. So we encourage everyone to first of all subscribe to our YouTube channel. This is where we're going to be posting the video series. After you've watched the series, be sure to go to pioneerstartshere.com to vote on the category winners. The category winners, as well as the 2026 Pioneer of the Year, will all be announced at our May Pioneer Awards event. So those are the 3 things for you to do. First of all, subscribe to our channel, watch the video series, and vote on your 2026 Pioneers. Now let's jump back into this podcast.
What do you think the biggest mistake that other tech partners are making? Now, we've talked about sourcing, right, to other countries. We've talked about monopolizing meetings and unnecessary meetings with clients and things like that. Yeah. But I think it's more than the positioning. It's their infrastructure on how they operate is what I've come across.
Yeah. I could go a lot of different directions here. I think there's a few things I see broken just in the world of consulting in general, right? And one of it is due to scale. And scale and growth causes what I call the rotating chair problem, where you are working with a new consultant every few months, every 6 months, a few times a year. And so now you're having to relearn that context of the client, of the projects. Mm-hmm. You're also getting varying degrees of expertise, right? So you might have been working with Fred, who's an expert, and then you're working with Jimmy, who's right out of school, paying the same rate. And that's just not a seamless thing, right?
No.
And a lot
you're
of times,
laying railroad tracks, right?
And a lot of times it's due to scale, but that revolving chair I think is a problem. The other thing I would say, and something that we're trying to really be different. Like, why did I come back to consulting? I never thought I'd come back to consulting. Truthfully, I never did. But
Why is that?
yeah, so because consulting is just a different energy. It's a different time commitment. You're working on multiple projects, multiple clients, right? And so when I left consulting, I was like, oh, great. I'm going
I
to
get
go work
to focus on
one
thing.
company,
Yeah.
one thing. Like that's the
Yeah.
traditional sort of thing. And that is true. And so there's no right or wrong. It's just a different sort of thing. And I loved focusing on one thing, but there's also an energy getting back to it, and helping and doing a bunch of different things that is rewarding. But I think that one of the big problems in consulting is the overhead and the bloat. Why do people hate paying consultants? They don't get anything done, right? They don't get anything done. And so one of the things when Caleb left in 2019 to really start down this path of consulting for himself was, well, there is no overhead, right? Let's just go and do the work. And turns out clients love to pay for stuff to get done.
Yeah.
Right. And so,
Gee.
who would have
Yeah.
thought? So if we can remove that bloat and complexity, and let me give you a practical example. In a lot of consulting companies, if you pay them for an hour, what percentage of that hour would you think is actually valued, driven work, like actually delivering something of value for the company?
10%.
That's pretty low, but I would put it closer to 40 or 50%. But maybe in some companies
It
is.
depends. I mean,
For sure.
I've been in these meetings where you don't have to bring in the whole staff,
No.
and I've dealt with it. Johnson & Johnson, longtime partner of mine, working with all their brands.
Yeah.
They would bring their whole tech team in.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Why do we have to have meetings with 12, 15 people?
We could have passed each other in the hallway and made a decision.
That's right.
To be honest with you,
That's right. And so, but that's just how it's done in consulting, honestly. It's just bloated and slow. And so for me, coming back into it and really the mission of BT, we say to change the world of consulting, to provide an alternative approach. That's what it means. Like no bloat and complexity, just value delivery as much as possible. And turns out clients really love that.
You guys, I'm thinking back to our burrito lunch.
Yes.
And thank you again for that. But you were talking about the ways these companies treat their employees, and that you guys have a unique approach to that. Would you mind sharing that?
Yeah, for sure. And now we're going to get into soapboxing at this point. So I think of
Fine by
it
me.
as changing the world of work. And I think it starts back in the 1920s, honestly. 1926, Ford Motor Company goes and says, we're going to have a 40-hour work week. And the government actually had done it before then, trying to get the private sector to go and stop working 80-hour weeks. So Ford says, okay, we're going to go to a 40-hour work week. And then in 1940, it gets ratified into law that is like the standard of the United States, right? The Fair Labor Act, that the 40-hour work week comes into sort of existence. And guess what? That was a long time ago. But guess what? Look how companies are operating today across the country. And so I think it starts with there hasn't been a lot of innovation in the operating model. What makes a good business? What makes good technology? Well, we want to innovate on the product, right? We want to create new solutions for clients. But nobody innovates on the company. Nobody innovates on how things are done. Maybe Silicon Valley, and that was really one of the first, like, oh my gosh, they're sitting in bean bags and providing food and a very different experience. But in general, companies don't modernize how they operate. And I think that has led to a tension between employees and companies, right? And so one of those principles I think guides BT is I want to respect people's life outside of work as much as we do inside of work. Well, how do you do that? I think flexibility is one of the greatest ways to do that. If the standard right now is good work happens between 8 to 5, right? 9 to 5, 8 to 4. That's when good work happens, Jonathan, right?
Well, no.
I
I don't always have a pulse or a bead on the pulse of the team and their satisfaction. How do I know it's working? Are they going to be truthful with me if they think I'm full of it on something? They might be truthful, but the point is, how do you know it's working and how can you see that it's working without asking if it's working?
Yeah. Well, and it also depends on scale. How big is your team, right? Because with a very large team, that can be difficult, especially as a leader at the top of an organization. How do you know at scale? So I think scale is certainly part of it. I don't know. You ask people, you talk to people, but you also build a company that respects them. And I think, because the original question was, how people treat their employees. And I think a lot of companies in the United States in particular operate with, I'm giving you a job and benefits, you should be thankful for that. And certainly there is gratitude in both directions in a job, but I think that it's a two-way street as well, and you have to earn that respect and you have to earn that trust. And so I think that's at the core of what makes a company and employees jive, if you will. The other thing is, I think when it comes to retention, that's a way to measure it for sure.
Yeah.
Are you retaining people? And I think retention's easy. I think retention's very easy. Why is it easy?
I think you're a minority to say that.
Yes, retention is easy,
especially
in my
since
mind.
COVID, right?
That's right. Right, and a lot has changed since COVID, but I think it's 4 or 5 things, right? Flexibility is like the golden benefit. People want flexibility in their lives. So if you can provide them great flexibility, competitive pay, if you can give them good people to work with, A players, like working with A players, right? And if you can give them interesting, challenging work, you will not have any issues retaining your employees. And it's on any company, it's on BT, any company to retain their employees. So you have to understand, what are employees looking for, right? You have to know. And I think where I see a lot of the discontentment is companies operate the way they've operated for years and years and years, and that has shifted. I think it's a turning of the tide, and it's a moment in time. And so understanding what those employees are looking for, I think, is a really important thing.
And, the other thing that you guys talked about was the philosophy of hiring people for potential.
Yeah.
Can you guys talk about that?
Yeah, for sure. That has been...
Not people with potential, people for potential.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. And so for me, some of the best folks that I've hired have come from actually outside of industry. And I think it starts with... And
I love that.
Yeah, a big fan of the ideal team player model. I've adopted it and used it throughout my career. But humble, hungry, smart, right? Smart is EQ, which I think is a really important
2 out of 3
thing.
ain't bad.
You need all 3, Jonathan.
Yeah, damn it.
But I think it starts with a good person, right? And somebody that is hungry to learn, that has that emotional intelligence to communicate with people. And generally, those folks who are humble, hungry, and smart can be taught anything. And so that's a big part of it. And so for me, I don't care what, let's just use a technical position. I don't care what technical skills you have. You might be the most brilliant programmer, the most brilliant database analyst in the world. But if you don't have those virtues, I won't hire you, right? And so that opens the door then to a whole bunch of folks who you're trying to find a really good person and help them grow from there.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I love that you're saying that, because, when I think over my career so far, you can only apply things the way you know them, right? Mm-hmm. You got your own background, your own baggage, whatever it is. And I think, I'm always telling people that when I was building this team here, you don't have to have years of experience. You got to have hunger. And that's what we've got. This team is a young, hungry team. And these guys pull through it, and we've set records every year with what we've done. But I think with our team, it's because we're mission driven. Yeah. At the end of the day, we're affecting companies, people's, employees' lives to make sure that we're growing this area. Yeah. So you provide, I think if you provide them with a mission and they buy into that mission, all of us will get there sooner or later, even if you're coming at it from a different path.
For sure. But people are also motivated in different ways, and I typically put it into 3 buckets. You have folks that are mission driven. You give me a mission that I believe in, and let's go there. That mountain, we're climbing that mountain together. Some people are team driven, right? Where they are there to support the team. That's what fires them up, is seeing the person next to them do well. And some people are just hard workers, whether it's sweeping the floor or doing something else, they're just going to work hard at it. And I think creating a good team, having folks that are motivated in different ways with different skill sets is important. But you have to have that mission, that why do we exist, right? What are we here to do?
Right.
Even in our business. And from the start.
You guys don't talk like a couple of tech guys. Do you know that?
Well,
He
Is that
doesn't.
good or
I'm
bad?
fine. Yeah.
Hey, I'm starting to wonder if you know what you're talking about. No. I think because I knew of you guys before I met you, and the word on the street was that you guys are the go-to guys.
Yeah.
But you also talked about ambitious realism, and to me, I thought that was really compelling. Have you written any of this down in a book yet?
I write a
Not yet.
lot. There's stuff in
Blogs.
handbooks and blogs and emails.
You got to consolidate that, man. Get credit for it.
I don't know, but ambitious realism, like, and this is sort of a journey I've been on, and I've always been very ambitious. I've always worked very hard in my career, and I think I got that from my dad. He had 4 businesses and worked really hard. I got to sort of see that work ethic.
Entrepreneurial spirit. I
Yeah. And that is certainly, working hard is certainly a way to get where you want to go, for sure. But at what cost? And I think that's what I've probably learned most in my career is balance. I have 7 kids, as you know, so I've got plenty to do outside of work.
I think that was a big topic of discussion at lunch. I said, 7?
Yeah. I'm one of 8. My wife is one of 11. So.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay.
But just, I sort of getting that balance in my life of what is truly important, which is hard for me because I'm a workaholic, I'm ambitious. So ambitious realism is we can still have big ideas and chase big things and start new businesses and buy businesses and do all this, but we also can still live a great life with our families, right?
Yeah.
Outside of work. And I think from the core of in our values, balance and ambitious realism is written into the values that, listen, we're all going to take on what we can handle. And if we're working 60 hours, 70 hours, it's too much.
Yeah.
It's too much. So we have to bring it back into balance. So we can still be ambitious, but let's not lose sight of what's most important in life.
Well, okay, let's stick on the balance thing for a second, because I think, I mean, I don't have any kids or anything, so I can't imagine the balancing act that you would have to go through for that, because on one hand you can say, well, no, I've got this job and it's got to get done. On the other hand, I can't imagine how many events you have and things like that. Mm-hmm. What is balance then, if not giving, exorbitant attention to one side one day and the other side the other? How can you quantify balance? How about that? Let's get esoteric.
Yeah. It ebbs and flows, right? You can't run your life like a spreadsheet. That's something I've learned. And so seasons.
But you also can't, I think, and you guys tell me, you can't say, okay, my work life is 8 to 5 or whatever the heck it is, and then that's business. Now, to your point, 6 to 9 is for the family. That's almost impossible, I would think.
We try.
Yeah, or is it?
Well, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, and setting that expectation from the beginning is important with your employees, with your clients. You take a client call, that's pretty important.
You guys are taking client calls from home, I would assume, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah. I mean, we're generally available 24/7.
I mean, but things do bleed out from the 8 to 5.
That's right.
Frequently, we get, or beforehand, right? We have breakfast at 6 a.m., 7 a.m. You fit a meeting where you can.
Yeah.
And thankfully, we both have good support structures at home, help take care of the family.
I just think it's really interesting the way you guys approach. You're humanizing the technology. I don't know if anybody's ever said that to you. That's the way, we do our pre-show notes and all this stuff. And as I was going through your packets here, which, by the way, what a couple of handsome individuals, huh?
Look at those guys.
That's not AI either.
That's not AI either.
Well, we're going to get into AI in the last portion.
Good.
But I guess if you're telling me, it sounds like you're saying get the right people in there and the job will get done. But finding the right people is the challenge.
That's it. Humble, hungry, smart. That's how you find them. But I also think businesses, what makes a good business? Really good top line, really good bottom line, right?
Yeah.
And growing that top line and optimizing that bottom line, that's what makes a good business. And certainly by the books, that is what makes a good business. But a lot of businesses are chasing growth at all costs.
Yeah.
And that's a decision, a very intentional decision from the beginning. We're not in this to grow to some huge company no matter what. We're not in it because guess what? That would have us sacrifice the other things that are important. And there's a great book called Slow Productivity that I recommend anybody read. And it looks historically at some of the greatest works in history. How were they produced? And it wasn't by working 18-hour days, and it wasn't by grow. It was by taking intentional time to do something worth doing. And I think that's a wonderful thing. And so so we're also in this to prove you don't have to work. And we've started a company. And what would people say? Oh my gosh, you started a company. Like, that's stressful. You guys are working all the time. Like, you want balance? Say goodbye to that.
That's right.
But in fact, that's what we're out to prove, that you don't have to sacrifice everything, even in starting a company.
I love you guys are the first two tech guys I've ever met that talk like this. And speaking of the tech, you guys work a lot in AI, okay? And everybody is AI. They're screaming it from the rooftops, right? That's the next bubble, perhaps. But I'm curious as to if you guys have an opinion on what industries are AI proof at this point today or the next point tomorrow.
Service-based industries.
Yeah.
We've been talking a lot about that over the last few months. Maybe we'll do some things in the future in that, but obviously things off the computer. At one point, everybody thought that the blue-collar jobs were going to be replaced, that they were the first things to be replaced by robots, and all of a sudden,
we're threatened by that on a daily basis.
Yeah, all of a sudden our computer jobs are pretty threatened. Now, okay,
They
AI
said the same thing about print.
Yeah,
Print is dead.
Yeah,
Now, all of a sudden, the computer comes in. We're printing more.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
And now maybe it's coming back.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we've been really AI heavy since about February.
Yeah.
So we're coming up on a year of that, and it has definitely gone through some highs and some lows regarding. Okay, this is going to take all of our jobs. The lows are okay. This AI sucks. You can't do anything. Somewhere in the middle, somewhere high. I'm in the middle right now. And again, it goes up and down, but we're just being more realistic at this point.
That's right.
Yeah, we know the potential.
Yeah.
I think anybody who's working around technology at all knows the potential.
Yep.
I feel personally that I think there's AI enhanced, and then there's AI as a destination.
Sure.
Right. And I think even if you look at order at Taco Bell, that's AI now, right?
Yep.
And then they do these reports. Oops, too many orders are getting screwed up.
Right.
Okay, so we're going to be doing this flip flop for some time to come.
sure.
I think.
For sure. And I think that concept that you mentioned, Jonathan, really resonates with me, because you have what AI could be, and we just pulled it right to today and said, this is what it is. And clearly it's not. I think in our industry, in the tech industry, when you're writing code or doing technical things, it was the best application for AI, and it's here, and we use it a lot in our day-to-day. I think as you get out into businesses and integrating AI into businesses, there are a few realistic use cases and very specific things where you can apply it to. But this concept that you are going to magically integrate AI and it's going to do all the work and we're going to sit back and manage AI agents.
You can lay off 500 people because this application will.
And who knows where it goes, but it's not here today, that's for sure.
And then you lay people off, and a week later, your site goes down.
Right.
Like,
Well,
what happened?
Well, and can we also, we are in it for the people, right? So a lot of times, let's go back to growing your top line and optimizing your bottom line, right? We want to create good jobs and good businesses for people to work on. When I listen to a lot of people talk about AI, it's like, how do we get rid of people? How do
That's
we
right.
replace people?
It's the answer. Well, it could be a component of the answer.
Right. And most companies are trying to optimize bottom line. So guess what? What a great opportunity to shrink that bottom line.
Right.
And so we're just in it for a different reason. We're not in it for profits at all costs. We want to create good companies, good jobs, modern environments for employees, for humans to work at. And so that's a big, I think, grounding principle in our AI strategy is like, no, we're in it for the people, actually. And not
Wow, that's
to
ironic,
replace.
right?
Yeah.
You don't hear. I got to tell you, I would love. You guys should be giving speeches on this. I know you guys do talks or whatever, but I mean, I just think that from an operational standpoint, keeping employees engaged and happy and fulfilled, I guess would probably be the way you would say it.
Yeah.
You guys need to speak on this more, because the other thing is, I was reading about you guys wanting to make Fort Wayne a tech hub.
Yeah.
And can we talk about what you guys are doing to try to accomplish that, or what needs to be done?
Announcement will come out soon, but I'm taking over as president of Fort Wayne Tech. It's an organization here in town started by Lindsay Lott, and it's really grounded in just that. Like, how do we continue to put Fort Wayne on the map for tech people? And honestly, Jonathan, it came the idea and that concept and that vision really came from my time back at Sweetwater, right, where we were hiring so many folks, bringing a lot of people in from out of town. And so I wanted to make sure that Fort Wayne, for those folks coming from California, West Coast, East Coast, was seen as a destination city, or at least known that, hey, really cool stuff is happening here between cornfields. And so Fort Wayne Tech, and we're really going to be digging in next year, focusing on the doers, right? The men and women getting stuff done every day, who nobody knows about. And there's so many cool stories around town. And even, I think, a great story is Caleb and building and selling his own product. Caleb's just in general
a wonderful time.
But
he's like, why are you picking on me?
But built and sold his own product, right? 3 years of working very hard to make that happen. Nobody knows about that, but can we inspire more people to do things like that?
Yeah.
Right? Or even to come out of industry and to get into tech. I hired a number of people that went to boot camps outside of a technical field and are doing great things in technology now. So we're going to try and get those stories out there and really just highlight that, no, amazing stuff is happening right here in Fort Wayne, and big scale tech stuff, big scale digital stuff. And so inspire folks to come in, but also inspire the folks that are here to do more.
I'm so proud of what you guys are doing here. And it's more than just bringing AI and bringing technology to the forefront. I think it's also human elevation, because what you guys are talking about is keeping teams happy, keeping them motivated, and introducing new technologies into it. I've never heard tech guys talk like you guys do.
Yeah. I'm really in it for the people, in creating modern businesses, good jobs for people, supporting Fort Wayne in that way. And like you said earlier, not just in technology. We're really focused on other opportunities, maybe outside of the AI pending doom, that we can support the city and do good things and take the same mentality to other industries. And so we're really excited about that. I think there's a lot of cool stuff to come.
I got to tell you, I get motivated every time I talk to you guys, because you guys seem to, at least in theory, or probably more in reality now, you guys are marrying human capital with cutting edge technology. And I never see tech guys talk like that, and I just think it's brilliant.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Let's get down to the rapid wrap up, boys.
All right.
Okay, first one. Are you a lake person or a hiking person?
I mean, easy for me, hiking.
Okay.
I would probably say lake.
Okay.
We don't really go to the lake, but it sounds great.
Okay. Well, if BT buys a boat, then we're all invited.
Yeah, let's go.
Leave it at that.
Yep.
Would you rather see a show at the Embassy or a concert at the Clyde?
Embassy for me.
I still haven't been in there.
Really?
I haven't been at the Clyde either.
Yeah.
What am I doing? I'm working too much.
Come on.
I would.
Stefan.
I'd say embassy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Vera Bradley annual sale or Sweetwater Gear Fest? And I think I know the answer to this.
Well, I'd say Gear Fest.
If I can be a customer of Gearfest, not an employee at Gearfest.
we've run Gear Fest
fair
and plenty of great
behind the scenes too many times.
Yeah. So
Okay.
we've been on the other side of that. It's a good time, but it's a lot of work.
It's good and bad. If I'm not working there, it's even better.
Yeah.
What is the most impactful AI integration you have implemented, or the most satisfying component of AI that you guys feel strongly about?
I mean, to me, it's in our daily work. It's in the technical work, right? And is in AI's ability to assist us in writing code. I think, especially early on when we discovered it and the tool started coming out, it's just like, oh my gosh, this is unbelievable. And it's still very exciting today. It really has changed our industry for programmers, for software engineers, for technical people in just tremendous ways. And the net effect for us is it sped us up and allowed us to get more done. You combine our experience, right, with the technology, you can do a whole lot with it. So for me.
And so even before writing code, taking a project, its specifications, all its requirements, and getting those in a system where AI can understand it, having it fill the gaps, ask you questions. So it's looking at your specifications for a project and saying, this is maybe something you missed. Do you want to do this, this, or this? And I can answer that question, something I may not have thought of. We were coming back from a project meeting. I have about a 20-minute drive home. And I basically opened up ChatGPT and I just dumped my brain into it. Everything I remember from that project meeting. And I said, ask me questions. Just keep asking me questions about about this project.
Brilliant.
And it opened up so many new things to think about.
It's such an exciting time,
Yeah.
and it's so neat to watch you guys learning and growing and applying it to people.
Yeah.
And congratulations on all your success, guys, and I'm so happy to have you guys on the show.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks for
you.
having us.